Whether your business has 6 floors or 6 employees, Walmart Business has everything you need to save time, money, and hassle. You can restock your break room with bulk ordering or bulk up your ordering team with shared payments. And you can get it all delivered straight to your business's door, whether that's on Wall Street or Main Street. Walmart Business. It's the Walmart you love, now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Contentful. Marketers, you know that feeling when your creative clicks? When that social post sends engagement through the roof? When your outside-of-the-box campaign hits ROI positive? When a personalized homepage turns prospects into customers? It's utter marketing bliss. Contentful helps you create tailored omni-channel experiences without working overtime. No stress, no limits, only possibilities. Get the feels at Contentful.com.
Big news! Sephora is now on Uber Eats. So if you find yourself facing a beauty emergency, like needing a last-minute gift, or you're just out of your favorite mascara, again, don't panic. We got you. Order now and get $10 off on Sephora orders of $50 or more on the Uber Eats app. Order now. Offer ends October 30th. One order per customer. Additional terms apply. See app for availability. Delivery fees may apply.
Guys, it finally happened.
What?
We have a development in one of our stories of the summer, and it's not Jonathan Kuminga.
Oh, okay.
Malik Beasley, according to Shams, is no longer a target of the federal gambling investigation conducted by the Eastern District of New York.
And that's according to Steve Haney, his attorney.
Important qualification there.
Yes, Diamond Package member, attorney Steve Haney, and his other attorney, Mike Schachter.
I feel like this is a good opportunity to mention that there will be another episode of Pablo Torre Finds Out.
Oh.
Yes.
On this story. Right, Amin? We can say that?
We can say that. It is a forthcoming episode. Don't know when it's coming out, but there will be another episode. There will be updates. This is also a good time. Should I divulge the conversation we had on the phone the other day? No? All right. We'll save that.
Keep your mouth closed and keep your third eye open is what I would say.
This is how I will walk the line. Language matters, people. Language matters.
Language does matter because no longer a target of. That is mighty specific. Sounds great. Sounds great for Malik that he is no longer the target.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't say that he's cleared of all charges.
Well, he wasn't charged with anything.
The legal jargon is that he is not indicted. That's what he means by no longer a target. But it reminds me kind of the draft day shenanigans they would get into when they couldn't say the Chicago Bulls are drafting Matas Buzelis.
Yeah.
They said circling Matas Buzelis.
Zeroing in on, laser focused on.
All signs point to.
Anything that you can say to not say the thing. Interesting.
Open your third eye.
My assignment. Uncover why the association inspires more conspiracy theories in volume and salience than any other U.S. sport.
You've heard of the Illuminati.
The truth is out there, but so are lies.
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
The NBA has always been controlled by about 8 people.
Denial is the most predictable of all human responses.
If you're only using 10% of your brain, you don't even know that you're using 10% of your brain.
The NBA Illuminati.
If coincidences are just coincidences, why do they feel so contrived?
The Illuminati.
But you start to follow the money,
and you don't know where the f*** it's gonna take you.
It is unspoken. They have influence among other players.
The NBA Illuminati.
I don't have time for your convenient ignorance.
Maybe I'm a conspiracist now as well.
That's all it took. Oh, we got books, we got schools. You saw a video on YouTube.
My eyes, sir. You've never used them before.
We are the Basketball Illuminati.
This is Basketball Illuminati. I am Tom Haberstroh, back from vacation, back from COVID. Oh. Still got a little bit of Stugatz in my throat. That didn't come out right. I'm going to redo this.
Oh, God.
That'll make you sick, all right.
Oopsies. There's Stugatz in everybody.
What?
It still doesn't come out. It's not.
Well, it's because you said the other one first.
I know.
It still doesn't come out. Also, not a great pivot.
I'm Tom Haberstroh, and I'm joined, as always, by the 5-star Illuminati generals Amin Elhassan and producer Anthony Mays. We've got Ben Kaplan and Danny Parkins. Danny Parkins, you might know from Fox Sports 1, joining, how many hours of it is it now?
3 hours of First Things First. Mm-hmm. Third Things Third, he's the third hour.
Hour 3.
Danny Parkins joining the show with Nick Wright, Kevin Wildes, and Chris Broussard.
We are going to talk to Ben Kaplan and Danny Parkins about their book, Pipeline to the Pros, How D3 Small College Nobodies Rose to Rule the NBA. Great book. You should read it. Lots of lessons in secrecy and the power of secrecy and all the shadowy world of the NBA. Right up our alley here at Basketball Illuminati. How people get hired and all that stuff, I mean.
You know how some people think there's like a lizard race that's infiltrating humans, wearing human skins and all that stuff? That's really happening in the NBA.
It's in this book.
There's a lizard race of D3 people running the league in the shadows. And Danny and Ben did a great job of kind of revealing all of this right here, but in a positive way.
That's right. So we're going to go along with, sorry.
We have a great interview with them, and it is over an hour.
We go deep and long with Ben Kaplan and Danny Parkins. I'm sure they're enjoying this.
Hard-hitting interview.
Pipeline.
Yeah.
You all think I'm late. Well, I'm not late. And I'm going to stay right here and fight for this lost cause. Even if this room gets filled with lies like these. And the tailors and all their armies come marching into this place. Somebody will listen to me.
There's no better way to overpower a trickle of doubt than with a flood of naked truth.
But the complexity and the gray lie not in the truth, but what you do with the truth once you have it.
What is true and right is true and right for all.
You and I both know that that's just not the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Too messy. Keeps them up nights.
I'm here because in the end, the truth is worth the risk.
Speak a little truth and people lose their minds.
I'm a grown man, you can tell me the truth.
Why is it people who want the truth never believe it when they hear it?
So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something really outrageous. I'm going to tell the truth.
How D3 small college nobodies rose to rule the NBA. Pipeline of Pros. Look at this. We've got Ben Kaplan and Danny Parkins on the show today. Amin, this is big time.
Yeah, man. This is, it takes a lot to get me to read. So
you guys did it.
You guys did it. This was a great read and very. I like education. That's why I don't read a lot, because I don't feel like I learn a lot from a lot of the books that get sent. But this is one where I feel like I learned a lot on the background of people who have been fixtures in the NBA, but I never really thought about their life prior to being in the NBA. And so I want to get started with what inspired you guys to even go down this thread.
Danny's just really passionate about Division III basketball. He's a huge fan. He's been one forever.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, what inspired us to go down this thread is I played Division III basketball and then started noticing guys that I had played against, that coached me, were not only working in the NBA, but rising the ranks really quickly. And it became one of those things of like, how prevalent is this, or am I just noticing it? and started looking at some of the numbers, realized at the time that 12 of the 30 NBA teams had a head coach or a general manager that had played Division III basketball. And I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. And then having absolutely no sports media presence myself and being completely unable to sell a book, fortunate to be best friends with Danny since third grade and brought the idea to him. And he's a big basketball fan and a really good friend. So he was happy to hop on and do the project with us.
Yeah. My initial answer was there can't possibly be a book there. I was like, that sounds like maybe a cool Twitter thread or article. And then, so Ben kind of needed to sell me first, which I think is what ended up helping us sell publishers. I was like, well, listen, man, like, media, you're gonna need star power. And he was like, well, what about Greg Popovich and Jeff Van Gundy and Brad Stevens? And I was like, oh, damn, like, he might be right. Like, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met. But so, Ben and I have been going to basketball games and watching basketball games, and he was way, way better than me, but playing basketball together our whole lives. And so, but just very different industries. So the idea that we would like ever work together on something like never even entered my consciousness. And so when he called me with this pitch, I was like, yeah, if you think there's a book there, and I knew like me attaching my name to it could help on like booking guests, interviewing, getting connected, promotion, that sort of thing. But I also knew that he was like brilliantly smart and it wasn't going to tarnish me in any way. So it was just really cool to work on a project with a best friend.
Yeah, as I'm reading this, I kept thinking about you, Amin, is that you lived this life of like working in an NBA front office. And so I'm like, man, I bet Amin has a lot of like opinions about the stories here. You have a lot of shared anecdotes with all of like Mike Budenholzer, Eric Spoelstra,
Right.
and you too coached as a NBA head coach as a champion, right?
Yeah, well, now I know what the missing link was. My dumbass went to like power schools like in D1 and stuff. I should have been in D3 all along. Yeah, but one of my favorite things in the book was you guys talk about Frank Vogel and Larry Bird firing him because Larry Bird, I remember this at the time, he had this whole thing. It's like players tune a coach out after 3 or 4 years anyway, right? That was just his thing. He said the same thing when they let go of Nate McMillan a few years later. And, earlier in the book where they talk about Bill Fitch, and Larry's like, oh, man, we messed up when we let go of Bill Fitch. I'm like, wait a second. That's where his whole theory about the coaches getting tuned out came from. Was just like, oh, Bill Fitch, we stopped listening to Bill Fitch after 4 years. We had to get him up out of here. So it's funny to see like the evolution of Larry Bird's opinion over time over what at the time he believed was a bad decision to now it's like his life philosophy when it comes to coaches in an NBA locker room.
I had never made the connection until you started making that point between Bird's theory and the Fitch lasting 3 years. But
right.
Yeah, it's such a good point. But, I don't think Frank Vogel was riding the guys as hard as Fitch was. So I think it allowed Bird to be right twice. He could be right when he left and said, we let a good coach go. And then he could be right whenever he fired a coach as a GM.
Well, I was just thinking like from the front of the book, there's X's and O's on here. But a lot of this book is like relationships, networking. And it's who is, in the D3 world, a lot of the humility that I got from this book, the humility of D3 players is that you have to do everything on the floor. Jeff Van Gundy talks about it. Mike Budenholzer talks about it. That kind of humility is that you don't know shit. And you got to grind your way through this experience in order to move your way up the ladder. It really is shocking how many people in the NBA world, coaches and executives, came through that same path, the pipeline and the grind. The names, here we go. I just wrote down a bunch here. Sam Presti, Emerson, Rob Hennigan, Emerson, Jeff Van Gundy, Tom Thibodeau, Chris Finch, Wes Unseld Jr., Steve Clifford, Andy Greer, that you guys called the third Van Gundy brother, which is great. Stan Van Gundy, of course. Will Dawkins, Glenn Wong, Connor Johnson, who work in OKC.
I feel like Emerson deserves its own like wing of this book. Like
Emerson, Williams, and Amherst. I feel like if you want to work in the NBA, go to those three. Right, Ben?
Yeah, any like elite East Coast liberal arts school, and then Emerson's got the whole Presty thing. So
yeah.
It offends me that their college bookstores did not order 1,000 copies each. Frankly, that feels like a big miss on their part.
Amherst is known as a sports school, though. Beyond, like they have one of the best, or at least they used to. I don't know. Maybe I'm dating myself here, but they used to have one of the best sports management programs in the country. It's like Amherst, Ohio University. There's another one. I want to say it's Penn. Like, so it's like this handful of schools that were Arizona State were the first ones on the scene at doing sports management. And so they've, like, if you look at a lot of execs, not just on the basketball side, but on the business side throughout sports, or I should say basketball, like the operations side and business side throughout sports, you're going to see a lot of Amherst alums. And I'm curious, other than the humility of being a D3, player or coach, was there anything specific at any of these schools that was like a pipeline or anything more formalized in terms of making these guys ready for life afterward?
I think it changed as the NBA changed. So you had like the Van Gundys, Tibbs, Fratello, guys like that were going to these small state schools focused on, they knew they were going to go into coaching. They were getting education degrees. So they were learning to be teachers and coaches during college, and sometimes even coaching in college, like Gary St. Jean, who was a head coach and a GM. His playing career ended in the middle of his college. He was stopped playing as like a sophomore or junior, had a bad injury, and then started coaching his high school while he was in college. So these guys got a jump start on that world. And that has changed to where we are now, where, a lot of these guys are now executives, and they went to these like elite liberal arts schools, like you're mentioning, where they got these educations to, be able to understand data, think analytically, talk to people like they're in classes with the people that are working at the companies where all of, the guys that make the billions of dollars that own these teams are working. So they learn to speak the language. So the profile shifted, and that's kind of the benefit of D3 is that there are so many schools that you can kind of be a chameleon and shift as the necessities of the job shift.
Yeah, I think also like you mentioned the word a couple of minutes ago, and it's a networking book. That's the thing that, as someone who was not in the D3 world, really drew me to the story, and it kind of simplified it in a way where it's not that unlike other industries where someone breaks in and then gets power because they prove they can do it. And then when they get power, what do? They hire their friends. They hire the people that they know can also do it. And by the way, that's not a good thing across industries. It doesn't always result in like the best thing. It can become insular, and it can lead to lack of diversity of thought.
Except when it comes to Syracuse, correct?
Well, yeah, exactly. And so like, I was as a guy who came through Syracuse, and I do work at the radio station, and Bob Costas and Mike Tirico and Ian Eagle's names are on the wall. It's like, well, they would talk to me about like broadcasting, but they wouldn't help get me jobs. But like Nick Wright and Adam Lefko and the guys who were like my Jason Benetti, like my direct like classmates and contemporaries, we absolutely have talked to each other and helped each other and networked and recommended stuff, right? And so it did draw me to the story. And then some of these coaches will obviously keep relationships with their alma mater, stay involved, and they will call the head coach and be like, do you have someone who's graduating who'd be interested in an internship in our video room. You know, like, so there, it is a like literal pipeline that is being set up, like Emerson people wanting to hire Emerson people. And it absolutely exists. We talked to coaches who are on group threads of, you know, Emerson alums or Williams alums. We should have done that.
They're all in Massachusetts.
Seriously. Yeah, so it really, I have group threads with the guys I went to college with, right? We could be working in Houston, Pittsburgh, Chicago, and New York, but you're all kind of experiencing the same things rising up through the ranks. And so obviously the book is niche, but I also thought by the time we were done reporting it out that it was really a liberal arts primer. It was like a real testament for a liberal arts education and just like a diversity of backgrounds, like be exposed to everything, be exposed to smart people. And then who knows, you know, where your career and life will end up.
What was the hardest part about getting this book made?
Did we mention it's about D3 players and coaches?
What? Okay. Well, let me rephrase. Beyond selling the idea and getting someone to invest money and promise to publish it, like an actual, you got the green light. All right, guys, go ahead. Off to the races. Then after that, what was the hardest part?
Well, so I think, there's like the personal side of Ben and I that we can talk about if you have any interest in it. But like from the story point of view, a thing that I found frustrating was that, like two of the GOATs are like the two most secretive people in basketball, in Pop and Presti. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we didn't get either of them to talk. And part of that was like a limited budget of like, I had a full-time job and a couple of kids and things going on in my personal life. And Ben had a full-time job and even more kids and stuff going on in his personal life. We couldn't like get on a plane and fly to San Antonio to, you know, try to like meet him at the wine store. So like we had to like, but that's like any author will tell you, like you can still write an unauthorized book about someone if you talk to enough people in their orbit. And so we certainly did, but I thought we were going to get Presti. I never really thought we were going to get Pop. And it was frustrating at times to feel like this story is glowing. Like this isn't like a gotcha piece of journalism. You are openly proud of it. Pop talking about it in his Hall of Fame speech, but still not being willing to like sit up for the 100-ish interviews that we did for the book and participate because so much of their ethos is secrecy. So for me personally, that was like a fun challenge that we then wrote into the book, but it was also really frustrating because I wanted to talk to Greg Popovich for an hour.
Yeah, I circled this passage in the book, Will Hardy on page 135. Looping in newbies into high-level conversations can be risky. In an environment as competitive as the NBA, information is a valuable currency. Team employees, agencies, and journalists exchange secrets for favors or prestige. As a result, some teams limit their staffers' access to avoid leaks. The Spurs, however, chose to expand the circle of trust. And this is the quote from Hardy. Pop and RC, they always gave us such great access to learn. You weren't hidden from what was going on. With that, you had their trust, and our job was to represent the organization in the right way and keep the things that we were privy to confidential. That secrecy is kind of the whole idea, isn't it? Like Danny and Ben, like part of the reason why they were so successful is that everyone was in all these meetings, getting this kind of like, this very range aspect of this, where it's like we want a breadth of knowledge for all of our employees, but we also want them to shut their mouths and not talk to reporters. So the secrecy that actually helped them nurture this environment is also what made it very hard to report on why Popovich is so genius or why Sam Presti is so genius, is because they operate in this secrecy, and that's the blessing and the curse of it all, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And like with that secrecy can't exist without the stability of their organization, because if those guys weren't stable in their jobs, they don't have the juice to be like, hey, you can't be spreading these secrets or trying to backstab me, because they're comfortable. They know they're going to still have those positions. And so the people below them are going to do the work and follow the code to make sure that they don't run afoul of them and keep progressing their career. So yeah, it was a challenge, but then we had to get creative. So it was, we're not talking to anybody in the Thunder organization except their PR person repeatedly. So instead, what are we going to do? We're going to find guys that went to college with Presti and could tell us about his music career and could tell us about shaving his head before postseason games. And we could talk to professors who worked with Pop at Pomona and could tell us about his IM team and about him yelling at kids in the dorm when they were waking up his family and stuff like that. So in some ways it helped us, but obviously, it would have been awesome to get some time with those guys.
The Thunder PR guy is just, I mean, we're far enough removed that it pissed me off. There's like hundreds of emails and calls, man. I was like, come on, when is this going to get done? But yeah, they protect their own. And come on, Ben, the news article that went super viral about Presti. Like, Ben is a great researcher, man.
Yeah, you can't talk to Presti, so you use the newspaper.com article and search Sam Presti's name and go through every single article that mentions Sam Presti in the history of Massachusetts media. And I got lucky and found that one.
If anyone doesn't know who's listening, he found a letter to the editor that Presti wrote to it was the Globe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, to the Boston Globe when he was 16 years old, advocating for the Celtics to draft Jason Kidd. And it's unbelievable talking about like losing for the draft assets to draft the best player, and you need a smart point guard who can be an extension of the coach. I mean, the kid is 16 years old writing this letter to the editor. And so it's just an incredible find by Ben.
And this is also like in the 90s when that type of information wasn't necessarily readily available to kids at that age. Like right now, my kid watches basketball YouTube stuff, and at 8 he's got opinions on all the players. They're not right, but he's got those opinions. But like Presti was able to like do this stuff and form these thoughts without that, GM mindset really being a part of how media talked about the game then. It's kind of crazy.
This is going to sound like a weird question because obviously the exploits of these people led directly to where we are. But could this sort of revolution have happened in the information age? Right? You guys talk about in the book, for example, that the league started as just kind of like, hey, it's all players and coaches are there just to kind of like figureheads. And then the big leap was when these guys like Bill Fitch and John McLeod and Cotton Fitzsimmons and all those guys made the transition over and introduced like actual schemes and X's and O's and stuff. And then obviously throughout pushing forward all the way through Presti and these guys coming in and bringing an analytical eye that hadn't really existed before. But I guess my question is, at this point, is it just a networking thing to be in this D3 family, or could this have existed without the advantages of a lack of sophistication in any of these other areas?
I don't think it's just a networking thing. I think there's something to the background that they have. And I don't think it's not unique to D3. It's just like D3 kind of self-selects for it, where you're going to have the humility that, and you've chosen basketball in a situation where there's not glam. It's not like you're getting a scholarship, and it's not like there's a lot of people watching your games, but you still want to be a part of the game, which helps as you're grinding away in a video room or working your way up where it's not necessarily the most glamorous life. And then the other piece of it is just getting a start early. Like as these things have gotten more complicated, it's not like, okay, you're a former player, you hold all the secrets in your head. There's more information out there. There's film to break down. There's numbers to crunch. And you get these guys having a pretty good educational background, having a pretty good basketball foundation, and then being able to start at 22 years old. And like you said, in that Spurs world or in the Thunder world, like learning how to be learning and being in those meetings, learning how to talk to players, learning how to talk to owners, all those things are skills that you learn. And while their NBA counterparts are working on their jump shot or, watching tape or traveling and resting and getting their bodies right, like these guys are building up a foundation so that they have that advantage, at least to be like the front office side or the head coaching side.
I also think that there's so much money in basketball now and just so much money in pro sports that it's all so much bigger, right? Like every coach we talked to, especially from the Van Gundy era. And by the way, like the Van Gundys are the exact opposite of the Pops and the Presties. Like we talk to everybody because they never met an interview they didn't like. And like back then it was more like, oh, we're all at the 5-star camp and we're all out getting beers and we're all out in the alley with the trash cans, drawing up the plays and having fun and just like hiring our friends. And there was one row on a bench and it was like, you coached everybody and there were 4 dudes and 3 of them stood in your wedding and like the one guy was the outsider. Yeah. Now it's 2 rows of a bench, sports science, video department, analytics department. And then another thing that a lot of guys pointed to, especially on the executive side, was the G League. They could just like take shots on hiring guys and stick them in the G League. And, so I don't know if that's like exactly what you're talking about, but I think that it would have happened kind of regardless because these teams have just gotten so much bigger, so much more money, so much smarter that they need to hire smarter people. They can't only hire ex-players who made hundreds of millions of dollars playing basketball. Like they've got to fill out the video department and the advanced scout department for their G League squad. So like there were going to be more paths to get into the NBA as it got bigger.
Listener, listen up. This is important. Okay. I'm going to try to save you some money here. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. You may think like, oh, that's bad. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. Here's why I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 a month. You heard that correctly. $15 per month. Ditch overpriced wireless and the jaw-dropping monthly bills. And of course, there are all these hidden fees and stuff, but at Mint Mobile, plans start at $15 per month. All the plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text. You're not doing like weekend and nighttime minutes or anything like that. And it's delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone. Don't have to get a new phone. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. I switched months ago. People have asked, did you actually switch? Yes, I actually switched months ago, and I don't know what to do with all this extra money. I've cheated the system here. I've rigged something. This is an Ocean's 11 situation where I'm stealing wireless from Mint. That's how good a deal it is. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/dings. That's DINGS. That's mintmobile.com/dings. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Hello, listener. It's producer Maze here to talk to you about Kindred. Now, close your eyes like Owen Wilson during a job interview and imagine a way to travel that feels personal, comfortable, and connected without the price tags and the sterile feelings of hotels or short-term rentals. Now open your eyes and stop using your imagination because Kindred has made it very real. That's exactly what they do. Kindred is a members-only home swapping network. It's not a hotel. It's not a short-term rental. It's a smarter way to travel where each stay feels like home. Here's how it works. With Kindred, your home is your ticket. You earn credits by hosting fellow Kindred members, and then you use those credits to stay in over 220,000 homes in more than 100 cities worldwide. There are no hotel costs or rental fees, just the credits that you've earned. Every stay comes with white glove service, 24/7 trip support, and $100,000 in host protection. Make it easier for you to travel and enjoy yourself and not worry about details. I've used Kindred and I found an amazing home for a weekend getaway in an idyllic location with amazing views and great ambiance. It had everything I needed. And the best part was, it cost me $0. So apply now at livekindred.com and use code DINGS to join for free. Plus, you'll earn 5 nights of travel credit just for signing up. That's right, that's 5 whole nights for free at livekindred, KINDRED.com, code DINGS, DINGS, livekindred.com, code DINGS. Hello, listener. It's Producer Maze here to talk to you about Quince and their cookware. Cooler nights mean cozy meals at home, and Quince's cookware has made fall cooking so much more enjoyable. Their pieces deliver the quality and performance of luxury brands, but at a price that makes sense. And they look gorgeous on the stovetop, too. No matter what item you need to complete your kitchen, Quince has you covered. With 5-ply stainless steel pots and pans, nonstick skillets, chef-quality knives, and even ceramic bakeware, which is perfect for cozy casseroles or Sunday roasts. And when you look at these prices, you might think, how is Quince doing this? How do they deliver high-quality items similar to high-end brands that are half the price? Well, let me tell you, they partner directly with ethical top-tier factories to cut out the middlemen and pass the savings on to you. And it's not just cookware. I got myself some bath sheets. That's right. When you're a tall man, you have to use bath sheets, not bath towels from Quince. It's like drying off with the cloud. It's incredible. Upgrade your kitchen for cozy fall meals with premium cookware from Quince. Go to quince.com/dings for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dings, DINGS, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dings.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like expecting the leadership of a team captain on the football field, but getting a sea captain. You wouldn't settle for just anything for your team. Shouldn't it be the same for your insurance? So don't settle for just any insurance when you can go with a leader. State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
I mean, can you explain how much money you're making as a video coordinator and how long it takes for someone breaking into the NBA to actually make like a livable salary?
So I made my first full-time salary with benefits. I made $30,000. And that was 2007, 2006. I was lucky to be in Phoenix, which there are options as far as places to live. Not great options, but options nonetheless to places to live in order to survive. And then like you made extra money like on your per diems on the road. Like that was the $5 footlong, right? Like you would take the per diem, and if the number one goal was the gravy train. The gravy train was you showed up with like a DVD to the coach right around like 11:50 or something like that. I'm like, here you go, coach. Here's that edit you wanted. It's like, oh, I'm about to go to lunch right now. You got anything? I'm like, nah, you know what? I think I can move some stuff around. And like the whole point. And the funny thing was at the time, I thought it was like this brilliant strategist, like, oh, just coming right on time. And then later in life, I realized, oh no, they knew. They just did the like pantomime so that I felt good. So I didn't feel like an orphan coming in looking to get fed. But yeah, it was that. It was team meals. We were one of the teams that only did like catering on game night. Like so there were teams that had breakfast every day and lunch catered every day. And we were like, wow, that must be nice. For us, it was, we have a game tonight. All right, so we got the pregame spread and then postgame spread. And all you did was pack boxes. Boxes and boxes, because this was going to feed me until the next home game, pretty much.
So what carried you through? Like, because the thread that I got in this book was the love for the game. And at D3, when you play D3 hoops, like it is not a glamorous lifestyle. You're in empty gyms, and often I think it was the Emerson story that you guys wrote about how Emerson didn't even have a home gym. So they're playing they had practice at one point outside in October because they didn't have a gym to play in. That stuff, like, it's almost like an internship for the NBA head coaching, lower rung of the NBA coaching sphere or executive sphere is that like it is not a glamorous lifestyle, right? The Amin, what you're describing, Amin, I think it self-selects for D3 hoopers is that the love for the game is going to carry you through in times where it's like, I'm not eating, I'm sleeping on the floor in the office.
14, 15, 16-hour work days. Like get in before the sun comes up and you leave and the sun has already gone down and you just never saw the sun today or for a limited number of days. Being in rooms with no windows, right? I was sat in a room where it was just like nothing but monitors and like DVD racks. And
sounds like local radio.
Boy, man, I see some shitty radio stations too, man. It's funny. I've seen both sides of this shit.
I was like, I made $30K with benefits my first job in Kansas City. I remember.
Oh man, but the other thing is, and this is the big thing. This is the D3 thing, and in many ways, like I think about the G League a lot. A lot of what I was reading, like, oh, this is life in the G League, right? It's the idea that on the NBA level, at least in the modern era, everything has a job kind of specification and said there's like I remember the Suns, we were like almost damn near like a G League team in our own right. Because I remember being floored that Houston had video coordinators that all they did was cut their own film. And they have video coordinators, all they did was cut opponent film. And they have video coordinators, all they did was cut like just scouting tapes of guys around the league. Then they have video coordinators, all they did was just college. And I was like, you have people to do it. Like, well, yeah, what do you guys have? Like, it's me. I'm the guy who does all of this. And the head video guy, he was doing like the main tape for the team. But like in terms of opponent scout tape, and then the guys upstairs want to see this trade target over here. And oh, by the way, hey, how those Florida guys doing? That okay, I need to put the Joakim Noah tape. Like it was just one person, and that was like even that was a luxury compared to in the G League, where basically everybody did everything. Like I was the guy that would go down to the G League, and I've told the story a million times. Our head coach of our affiliate was a guy named Nick Nurse. And so I'm going down and I'm like sitting in the coaches' meetings, and then we're doing like some sales shit over here. And it's like, because in the G League, everybody has to do everything. And that was really the strong vibe I got from like the D3 stuff. It's like, it really teaches you to do everything so that by the time you get to the NBA level and they ask you to do this, like, yeah, I've already done some of this before.
And that's one of the things that, was new to us, was thinking about the size of coaching staffs and like how those roles get so siloed and like you're so specific in what you're doing. And I don't know, Danny, who brought like the Van Gundys both brought it up. Some of the other coaches that had been around a little bit longer brought it up. And they're just saying like, this sucks for these younger guys coming in because they don't get the experience we got. Where I was an assistant, like Danny talked to Hubie Brown for like 2.5 hours, which was an incredible interview. And one of the things he said when he first started with the Bucks with Larry Costello, he was the assistant coach and he was the advanced scout. So he would coach the game, fly out, scout a team, fly back, like do practice, fly out with the team. Like he was doing all of those things. That's just like, now that's 12 different people's jobs, and you don't get the same level of hyper speed education that those guys got.
And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of coaches mentioned that, but also, and I would call some of them on it and call some of them on bullshit, but like, it was also striking to me as like the outsider of the person just doing the interviews and like trying to tell their story, was how many of them swore that they would have been happy staying D3 forever. And I called some bullshit. Right. That's what I felt too. And I was like, Stan, you've been like a big time media person for a long time. Like, I don't know that you'd go back, but it really did speak to like some like love of the game stuff and like a tremendous amount of respect for what they learned at the D3 level, the real world education it gave them, the level of preparedness it gave them. And like, they would swear that there are more than 30 people that can, that can coach an NBA team, that like the sophistication of the basketball, the level of the coaching mind, the guy who's coaching at Emerson could absolutely coach Duke, could absolutely coach the Bucks. You know what I mean? Like that sort of like respect for the levels of basketball was like a really fun part for me. Cause like Ben asked me, he's like, ask everyone to tell you like their quintessential D3 story. And I would either like, if the interview was going great, I'd save it for the end. And if the interview was kind of going poorly, I would like interject it at the beginning. Cause without fail, 100% of the time, it was, oh, I remember when the volleyball team got to use our gym because they had signed up for the thing. Or I remember when our coach was driving the van and we got lost to the school in our conference that we played twice a year. And so like that level of like humility that stuck with, you know, whomever, Frank Vogel or Brad Stevens, like it became a character of the book.
Yeah, you're sorry. I see you're about to jump in. I just want to add that, like Brad, we talked to Brad Stevens, college coach, and he said that after all their games, you know, they'd win the game. They were at DePaul, not DePaul with a W.
DePaul, yes.
They'd finish their game, they'd win, they'd all like kind of huddle in the middle of the court, and then they wouldn't go like 1, 2, 3 DePaul. He'd be like, all right, 1, 2, 3, this ain't Duke, and then the guys would go clean up the gym because no one else was coming in to clean up the gym. But it's like that level of humility that doesn't leave you even as you're getting on the private jets and having all the fun stuff.
That's definitely a Stan staple. He's said that for years about like, oh man, there's a guy coaching in, you know, in the middle in Prairie View or whatever, who's just as good as like any one of these guys in the NBA, or it's like, oh, he could do my job or whatever. And with Stan, it's like, I get what he's saying. I think he puts a little bit extra on it. The only guy I've ever experienced to be sincere about, I'd go back in a heartbeat and coach, wasn't a D3 guy, but had a lot of D3 kind of vibes about Larry Brown. Larry Brown's the only, Larry Brown, they said, would walk in to the video room. This was when he was like consultant with Philly, I want to say. Like he wasn't coaching anymore. But he would walk into the video room and they would have the screens on. You know, if you walk into any NBA video room around 7 p.m. Eastern, there's a shit ton of games on, right? And he'd be staring at the screen and it was like a Marist versus Siena. And then the next day he'd come into the coaches meeting and said, oh, they had this great under out of bounds play. Yeah. Like he's like he's doing this shit. And obviously he went back, he coached high school, like as a 80-year-old, and he was obviously at SMU and stuff like that. But like Larry Brown is one of those true love of the game, dude. Just give me people who want to learn. I think Jeff too. Like Jeff going to do
that's what I was just going to say.
USA basketball when it was like and not just the select team, but like the team that's Jeff's not doing it anymore. But like the guys that just lost to Argentina 86-84 or whatever the other day, like Langston Galloway and you know, guys like that, like Chris Chiozza, like that team that competes in the non-Olympic, non-World Cup tournaments. Jeff coached that, and everyone said that's the happiest they'd ever seen Jeff, because it was like it's a caliber of talent that's not D3 or even college. Like these are good players, they're just not elite NBA players, but many of those guys have NBA resumes and have been rotation players. So it's like talented enough where I'm not like having to teach stuff, but humble enough in a way that like, oh, I can actually be like a coach as opposed to a lot of ego massaging like what happens at the pro level.
Jeff Van Gundy was so cool, man. Like it was so cool to the humility, but like the gym rat aspect of it. You know, he wrote the foreword to the book, but he was just like the type of guy that anything you asked for, any sort of facts check, any sort of connection, he would give it to you. And, you know, he swore that he would have never been a head coach if he wasn't an interim coach on the front end, because he was convinced that no one would ever hire a coach who looked like him.
Including Mitch Lawrence. Mitch Lawrence was a 50 million to 1 odds that he would get the full-time gig
when he was the interim head coach.
This is my guy, man.
That article is incredible where it listed the odds in the New York newspaper. I love that so much. But like,
and we learned about that from Jeff. Like he remembered.
Oh, yeah?
He had receipts on it.
Shit.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, every slight, everything. And I mean, like, and now being like on the media side, and you guys, like Tom and Amin, you guys know, like, Jeff is so good at media, but also like, I feel like, because he was pissed at how it ended, obviously, with like losing that gig. And like, I mean, but it was kind of a happy accident. He thought he was going to be a coach forever. Jeff Van Gundy did not think he was going to be a media star, you know, and then all of a sudden he's broadcasting the NBA finals. And then when it ends, what does he do? Goes right back to the bench. Like it is in their blood. So when you were talking about Larry Brown the whole time, I mean, I was thinking of Jeff Van Gundy.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was thinking of, so he knew Steve Clifford through working camps, but when there was the NBA lockout and Jeff was with the Knicks, he was going down. Steve Clifford was at a small school in New York, and he was going down and watching his practices. He was like, he needed a fix. Clifford had the fix for him, and he was just watching these guys. And then he was like, "Coach, can I talk to some of your players?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course you can talk to some of my players."
You're the coach of the Knicks.
You talk about like Steve Clifford and
Tom, real quick. You know what I don't even know if I should be revealing this. You know what the nickname is for all those 5-star guys? They have a name for them.
What is it?
And it's even though Cliff and Tibbs are part of this group, like they may not fit the description. They call them the itty bitty coaching committee because it's like it's Jeff, it's what do you call it? It's Fratello. It's like all of them are like these smaller, loud, obnoxious guys. So the nickname is the itty bitty coaching committee. Yep.
Yeah. That's incredible. I don't know if anyone revealed that to us. I feel like I would have remembered it.
I don't think they call themselves that.
No, maybe that's the issue.
They were like, we call ourselves the 5-star group.
The itty bitty coaching committee.
You talk about Steve Clifford and a bunch of the names that you bring up in this. A lot of them, their fathers were coaches, and so they were kind of like dyed in the wool of it. It was in their blood, like literally, quite literally in their blood, coaching. I think there was a passage in this book that really struck a chord with me because I kind of like swirling around in my head as I'm reading this is nepotism a good thing? You know, there was some research you cited, the footstep following. There was a New York Times piece that had this survey that from these economists who studied like nepotism and how you're more likely to join a profession if your father or your parent were in that profession. And so many of these connections, so much of this pipeline is like, oh, my dad, knew this person. And Will Hardy, there was an amazing Will Hardy story about like how he got up with the San Antonio Spurs. And it's not necessarily like my dad helped me, but these connections are so integral to the success. And a lot of that is passed down from one generation to the next. And I wonder, as you're writing this story and reporting it and talking to people, did you change your feeling about like, nepotism, I think, is a loaded term. But did you change your feeling about nepotism, whether in the end it like actually did produce great NBA coaches or executives?
Yeah. We're not saying that it's this book's position that nepotism is a good thing, but there's definitely benefits to it. Like the example, we talked to this economist who had studied this for a long time, and his example was of a farmer. And it's like, if you run a farm and your kid is on that farm every day and he's walking that farm with his dad from the time he's 6 years old, he knows where things are going to grow. He knows the specifics of that soil. He knows how the water runs off. Like he's just going to be able to farm that land better than a replacement level farmer who's not familiar with the land. And then you relate that to, one example is like Jeff and Stan Van Gundy, where their dad was recovering from surgery. And so the boys go do a scouting report for their dad when they're like kids. That's one example where they're getting early reps. But the other example is someone like, so we talked about Gary St. Jean, his son Greg is an assistant coach who's been in the league for a while now. And, Greg knew what a coach's life was like in the NBA. And he had his mom sit him down when he was 20 years old saying, I want to work in the NBA, being like, this is going to be hard on your relationships. This is going to be hard to have a family. There's a strain. And to look that in the eye and say, like, I still want to do this. that's going to give you the edge over someone who says, I want to work in the NBA, but doesn't know what it's going to take. Obviously, then, there's playing sports, there's more of a genetic advantage than coaching sports, but there's still some genetic basis for that too. But yeah, ultimately, like, there are things that come from being the child of someone who does a job that are going to make you better at it. Does that mean you're the only one who should get a shot at it? No. Does it mean you might beat someone who doesn't have those backgrounds? You might.
Yeah, I mean, I think loaded term is a good way to put it, right? It's not a catch-all. Like a lot of people described it to us as like, it got me a seat at the table or it opened the door, but it didn't keep me there. Like once you maybe you can hire your son to be the video coordinator, but at some point they're going to have to edit the tape of Joakim Noah. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have to actually do the work. And we've seen it too. There's resentment in the coaching ranks sometimes of players who cut the line to be head coaches because they have famous names, and some of them flame out spectacularly, and then some of them's like, Ty Lue's a damn good coach. Yeah, so that cuts across. Joe Buck is proud to be a Nepo baby, and he is also a damn good broadcaster. So it cuts both ways, but people just use the term kind of all encompassing to take shots at people.
Yeah, years ago, I had a good laugh with Stan Van Gundy about he was upset about referees and how they all are like brothers and sons of NBA referees, and he was lamenting that fact. And I was like, you're one of the greatest head coaching lineages in basketball history. Your brother's a coach, you're a coach. Come on, you understand the value of growing up in this lifestyle. And I think his point was, yeah, but we get fired.
Yeah. Oh, and he knows. He knows they get fired.
Did he mention that a time or two?
It came up. It came up in the conversations how unfair it is that they get fired and for what they can get fired for.
You guys,
it's a meritocracy though. NBA coaches, if you're not good at your job, you'll be kicked to the curb pretty quickly. Whereas there are other professions that it's just you have longer job security because your parents worked in the profession.
I'm curious, while we're on the topic of nepotism, or not nepotism negative, but nepotism nonetheless. Obviously Wes Unseld Jr. is the son of a Hall of Fame player and was a great exec, obviously in the league, and then also he's a D3 product. But did you guys get into any part of the race? Because this is overwhelmingly, when you look around the league, overwhelmingly white faces. And one of the things, I don't talk about it as much anymore, but I used to talk about it a lot, where the league entered recently this period of if you're white, your background could be anything. You could be a former player. You could be, hey, you were at a high level D1 college. You could be a D3 guy. You could be straight off of Wall Street. You could be all these things. If you're black, you better have played somewhere. And I was kind of like an anomaly walking around as, wait a second, people would ask, oh, where'd you play? I'm like, because the idea is there's no way I could do this based solely on understanding, business and all that stuff. So I'm curious, did you guys delve into that at all as far as the race angle there about how predominantly white that D3 pipeline is?
Yeah. And it was Danny's now coworker, Chris Broussard, who also played D3 basketball, who he has a quote in the book. I think it's something like keeping it real. D3 is really white or something along those lines. But
then he got into the data too. And
yeah. And yeah, Amin's absolutely right that if you are black and you're a head coach or a GM in the NBA, at least, not looking at the last 5 or 6 years, you had to have played in the NBA. There was no other path. There were a lot of other paths for people that were white. And
Ed Tapskett was the only anomaly there.
Yeah. And he was interim head coach, interim GM. And Wes was the first. Wes Unseld Jr. was the first person with a D3 background of color that was able to be an NBA head coach. And and it took him, you talk about him being the son of a Hall of Famer and like one of the most beloved basketball players in DC history. And he was, grinding in the league for 2 decades before he got that head coaching job. And, we wanted to make sure that we're telling the story. Like, yeah, these are all these little happy stories with Jeff Van Gundy, defeating beating the odds and becoming a head coach, and Frank Vogel betting on himself and getting to Kentucky and becoming an NBA head coach. But as you start telling more and more and more of these stories, is this something that in some is not like necessarily a happy story, and is it endemic of something that is worse with the league? And I think it's something that a lot of the guys were conscious of and really made sure that they prioritized as they were running their own organizations. But Amin's absolutely right. Like, they did benefit from that open-mindedness to like, hey, you're white, doesn't really matter if you played in the league.
Right. How much also is socioeconomic background play in terms of like just in the very basic reality of if I don't know, my family doesn't have to be rich, but if I'm well off, I can afford to take these wild ass swings of like, I want to work in the NBA one day.
I think that has something to do with D3. Like, I'm sure that there are a lot of D3 supporters that would yell at me for saying this, but like, they don't give athletic scholarships.
Athletic scholarships, yep.
They give academic scholarships, and there's plenty of ways to have an affordable D3 playing experience, but it is different, and it does create more opportunities for guys to say, hey, I want to go to an Amherst that's, I don't know what it costs now, probably like $1 million a year to go study there. And you might get a little bit of help, but it's costly. And so you can't just do that if you're on a lower socioeconomic level.
Yeah. I mean, there's another thing that like kind of drew me to the book. Like, my parents spent way too much money on a Syracuse education for me to study broadcast journalism and make $9 an hour for my first radio gig. You know what I mean? Like, when I made it to Chicago radio, I felt like my parents started to break even on their investment. and now that I cleared these TV checks for a year, I'm like, Mom and Dad, I won. But I had tremendous amount of privilege to pay for a private school education to go study journalism in the 2005 when I graduated high school, so it's those things absolutely towards the end of the book we wrestle with.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection and a welcome offer of 200,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
It's the Smucker's Uncrustables podcast with your host, Uncrustables. Okay, today's guest is rough around the edges. Please welcome Crust.
Thanks for having me.
Today's topic, he's round with soft, pillowy bread.
Hey.
Filled with delicious PB&J.
Are you talking about yourself?
And you can take him anywhere.
Why'd you invite?
And we are out of time.
Are you really cutting me off?
Uncrustables are the best part of the sandwich. Sorry, Crust.
At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Visit Blinds.com now for up to 50% off primetime deals and free professional installation. Rules and restrictions apply.
The data is awesome. As a data nerd myself, I'm reading this book and all the charts. Where did you get this? Like, did you manually track like executives and coaches dating back to 1990 and all of the? There was an amazing amount of research in this book that I just wanted to tip my cap off to you guys.
Thank you. We charted executive and coaching data back to the beginning of the league. And thankfully, Basketball Reference is a wonderful resource. And thankfully, we worked on this during COVID when you couldn't leave the house. And I have small children that go to bed early. So we had a lot of free time. But yeah, we took the took who was the head coach, who was the executive by team, and just started, adding in data points. What was their college background? What was their playing background? What was their race? Things like that to see what trends existed. And
what was the biggest revelation in that data mining that you're like, I'm so glad I spent every waking moment at 3 a.m. in the middle of this pandemic for this tidbit?
I think the biggest thing was that there were guys with D3 backgrounds that went back to the beginning of the league. And that was before Division III existed, but the school now is D3. We called it D3. So that was cool because we got to tell some stories and also talk about like the evolution of those jobs throughout the history of the league, which we wouldn't have been able to do if, we're just kind of going off of who we knew. And then the other piece was just seeing the ebbs and flows of like, okay, when were former players popular in these jobs? When were they not popular? And telling those stories of like, okay, what was it that was happening kind of like in a macro sense around the league? Like, okay, NBA and ABA merge. There's a lot of more black players in the league because the ABA was, more open to diversity because they were just taking the most talented players. And then all of a sudden you see these NBA owners saying, we need a college disciplinarian as our head coach. Like, okay, that's a pretty clear story there. And then in the 90s, as like, salaries start exploding and player empowerment starts happening, it's like, okay, we're seeing a lot more former players stepping into these roles, and being able to like see those trends was pretty cool.
And I just got to say, in the division of labor of doing this book, that was Ben's job.
When Tom was asking the question, I saw Danny just kind of like turn his head.
I was like, no, it was really cool, Tom, when Ben presented me all of that data after he did it all. That was dope.
We had a really good division of labor. Like, I don't think Danny, actually, I know this because I was like, Danny, I have this Excel spreadsheet, and he's like, dude, I don't know how to, how do you even open this? But then, we'd be listening to these interviews with coaches where, they might be a little bit salty or skeptical at first. And if it was me, I would have just like wilted. But Danny's able to stand up and be like, hey, tell me about a time that you did something crazy in D3. And then all of a sudden they're eating out of the palm of his hand. So,
the division of labor was great. But yeah, the amount of data and research that this dude was able to put together was mind blowing, like truly incredible.
What's something that you guys wish could have been in the book, but for whatever reason, just couldn't make it?
There's a lot. I would say like, I don't remember how long the book is, if it's like 270 pages, the first draft of it was probably twice as long. But
too long.
It was way too long. Nobody's going to read like an Odyssey-sized book about basketball players. But,
240. Yeah.
And that took some cutting. But I would say one of the areas was just talking about like some of the guys around the ABA and when they were working in the ABA. Like there's a section in there about some executives that ended up working in the NBA, but the world of the ABA was so fascinating. And we had a lot about Bill Musselman, who it turns out actually didn't really play college basketball, so he didn't really fit the criteria. But Danny talked to some of his old chums and stories about him. I mean, he was just an unbelievable character, and it was too bad we couldn't find a home for those stories.
I wanted to write the Hubie Brown book after my 2 hour and 50-minute conversation with him. And the funniest thing, I'm sure Tom and I'm sure you guys have interacted with him or talked to him before, but like I told the story when we were like promoting the book when it came out. I was like, I had slated an hour for my conversation with Hubie Brown, and it went 2 hours and 50 minutes. And then I like went on the air and did my radio show, and he left me like a 3-minute voicemail crying. And people were like, because of like things that I had conjured up in his memory and old stories that he had told and things about like him and Pop dating back. And I read a quote that Pop had said about him. And it was a beautiful conversation. Like I'll save that audio recording forever. Don't know that I'll ever go and listen to the full 2 hours and 50 minutes, but I'm like really, really honored that he spent that much time. But like those stories were so incredible. And they're like, just like this, I hope that someday someone is writing a book on him or doing a documentary on him or something like that. Because I mean, that guy is a true basketball treasure. Because it was cool to talk to people that were bigger names that just hired some of these people that gave them like it was just as a basketball fan, it was cool to talk to Jerry Colangelo about hiring. It was cool. Like I again, audio background. I was like, I almost wanted to call back my like 15 favorite interviews and ask them for permission to release it as a podcast series under the guise of leadership. But like, obviously they're being way more forthcoming with you because it's a book and they know not everything's going to get in. And this is not a New York Times bestseller, like talking to Brad Stevens for an hour and 10 minutes about hiring and leadership. I mean, Morgan Stanley would pay him $200,000 to sit up at a conference room to talk about leadership,
Well, give me one good tidbit from Brad Stevens about like his philosophy towards hiring.
Best idea wins, diversity of thought. Those things were, that's cliche. But I would say this is maybe my favorite anecdote. When it was done with I was doing radio in Chicago at the time, and I would try to like mine for like things about the Bulls or things about the current NBA that I could use in like the job that actually like paid my mortgage. And a lot of people were happy to talk to me and like give me like background and off the record stuff. And I asked Brad something and he was like, I won't answer that question off the record. He's like, I don't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. He's like, no. I only answer questions on the record. So ask me your question on the record. Now, maybe that's not a true thing. And maybe, you've talked to him off the record on background at a gym, but like, it was just a cool insight into character. The only person I've ever spoken to in sports who Brad Stevens reminded me of was Theo Epstein. Like, I came out of it like absolutely convinced that if Brad Stevens would have never, would have taken that other path down Eli Lilly, that he'd be running it, that he absolutely could be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So just a truly brilliant, quick mind who was when I talked to him about like the race thing within the D3 world, like he was like, well, yeah, that's why you have to be aware of it. Like you have to be aware of your biases. You have to be aware of who you know. You have to be aware of who you've been exposed to, that you like, so you seek out different things. And he was able to like point to examples through his career of how he like recognized his blind spots and turned it into a strength. Like just like a very smart, introspective person.
Yeah. I liked how he talked about how much time he spent thinking about what he wanted to communicate and what was worth communicating, and boiling it down so that it was easy for his players to digest. He's like, it's our job to sift through everything, all the information, and then give them the key salient points and do it in a digestible fashion. And like just how much time they spend on that. You don't think about that as someone just watching the NBA.
It's the video coordinator's funnel, man. Like you come in and we're gonna play Milwaukee so 4 games up, 4 games of tape of Milwaukee. We're doing this shit. And then it's like, we cut it down. All right, this is the stuff that we're going to show to the coaches. All right, cool. And then we cut that shit down, and then this is the stuff we're going to show to the players in film. And then you cut that down. Like, this is what we're going to show them right before we go to the game. Like 3. So it starts with like a zillion clips.
Where does the media? Where does the media fit into that one? How much are you going to share with the media and what your strategies are?
Zero. That's easy. We get 0 clips shown. Unless you're Mike Brown and you want to show. That's right. Hey, man, these bad
Speaking of Mike Brown, Speaking of Mike Brown, new Knicks head coach. Guys, I feel like there's an epilogue or a part 2 to this story.
There isn't.
He's San Diego. Mike Brown, San Diego?
The New York Knicks, Leon Rose, led by a D3 guy, Leon Rose, who was at what was it? I wrote it down. Dickinson College.
Yeah, it's in Jersey, or is it like it's down there, right? South Jersey or something like that.
It's one of those places. If it's not Jersey, it's Philly. If it's not Philly, it's Jersey.
It's Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Dickinson.
Yeah.
He let go Tom Thibodeau, another D3 guy, this offseason. What were your guys' reactions to watching that? One of the, main characters in this book is Tom Thibodeau, and Leon Rose comes in later, a lot of the CAA stuff. And I didn't know this, that Austin Brown, who's leading the CAA division, the basketball division, also a D3 guy. DePaul, right?
I remember Austin Brown used to send fucking emails like, hey, I got a player. The player would be like some guy from NAIA, whatever, Division 8. He's like, yes, that's for your. I'm like, all right, thanks a lot, Austin. And now look at him.
I was just thinking, a tier came from the D3 partnership is broken. So what were you?
I personally was surprised because it felt like for Tibbs, it worked out so well in New York. But if you go back to how it ended in Minnesota, there was absolutely no guarantee that Tibbs was going to get another shot. And, with how his reputation was, with how he, he grinds down his teams. And did it cause the Derrick Rose injury in Chicago? What about the infighting with Karl Anthony Towns and Jimmy Butler? And he was also he was power hungry and he needed to be an executive and you had to be a Tibbs guy. Like, it felt like Leon Rose might have been the only person who would hire Tibbs at that point in time. That seems ridiculous now because of how successful it was. But I personally was surprised that it had clearly splintered to the level that it had that allowed them to part ways. I don't know if Ben was.
Yeah, it was a surprise, but I mean, that's the risk of you get the band back together and then the NBA is not a world where you can just run it back in perpetuity. So yeah, it was tough to see. And that's another, we talked about secretive organizations. That was a third secretive organization that we also,
Leon.
Yeah.
That one.
Where was that one of the biggest dead ends for you? I know Pop, we mentioned, Sam Presti, we mentioned, but Leon was another one, whereas we can't get into that inner circle as much as we'd like.
I mean, yeah, the Knicks said no, he said no, and the inner circle, I mean, you guys, the World Wide West, Leon Rose, it's a whole cabal of high level thought.
And we tried a lot of angles at Tibbs because obviously Danny has a ton of media contacts in Chicago that know him well. Tried to get in.
Tibbs infuriated me too that he didn't say yes for some reason. Like I don't know why he didn't want to do it.
Yeah, I know the reason.
Go ahead.
It's where he worked.
Yeah,
I cannot explain to you the level of animosity that organization as a decree. It's not just like they got a bunch of guys that don't like interacting with the media. It is a standard of their operation that absolutely not. Nothing. And to view every interaction as a hostile one. And so even people I think if Tibbs worked anywhere else, including
that was
San
what all
Antonio,
the Chicago people told me.
If he worked anywhere else, he would have done it.
That's what all the Chicago people told me. They were like Casey Johnson, terrific longtime Bulls beat reporters, buddy of mine. Yep. He played D3. He was a real friend of the book. Numbers, NBA connections, whatever. And he asked Tom for me, and he was appalled that he wouldn't do it. And he was like, it's got to be a Knicks thing. He's like, there's no reason. He's like Tibbs is a great interview. I'm like, I've heard the interviews. So yeah, that one was frustrating too.
That's why.
But it was fun. It was a fun project because we're talking about some of the stonewalling because it's kind of fun journalistically to talk about it. But Phil Jackson emailed me back, and Jerry Colangelo said yes, and Brad Stevens, and we talked to massive names. Jeff Van Gundy. I just love this story, and I know we're an hour and 3 minutes into this podcast, so I don't know if anyone is still listening about D3 Hoops, but Jeff Van Gundy, called him a few times, did the 2 long interviews, did a fact-checking one, and then, we thought that maybe Kobe Altman was going to write the forward because of Ben's connection with him through Amherst, but Jeff is obviously a bigger figure, more famous, the whole thing, hired more people. And I had practiced my speech in the mirror of how I was going to ask Jeff to write the forward. Jeff, you're one of the godfathers of this story. We can't think of anyone better who more encompasses the D3 ethos, the whole thing. And I give it to him on the phone. So I have one last question for you. Would you write the forward? And he just goes, yeah, sure. And he's like, I wrote the forward for Coach Pitino's book. I'm like, I promise you, Coach Pitino better than you know me, given that we actually haven't met in person. That all of our interactions have been on the phone via text message. And so like, he was so cool about it. And so the vast majority of these people were so proud to tell their story and were so proud that it was being told because their first step towards D3, some of the younger guys were doing it because they were aware of the pipeline. But for the vast majority of them, their reason to go to D3 was it was the only place where they could continue their relationship with basketball. And so like that was like for some of the younger guys, Gary St. Jean, like they were aware of it, but everyone, certainly Frank Vogel and older, Budenholzer and older, like everyone there, they were just trying to figure out a way to stay around the game, and D3 was the highest level that they could get to.
Where are we in the curve of D3 influence in the NBA as we sit here in late August 2025?
It's a great question. On the coaching side, it seems like we're on the downswing because Tibbs, Vogel, Budenholzer, those guys are not coaching anymore. Who knows if they'll get head coaching chances again. And the executive side feels like we're on an upswing. Like the last two champions, Brad Stevens, Sam Presti, they're the executives that led those teams. It just feels like that background is kind of in the wheelhouse for some of these owners and what they're looking for the guy to run the team. So I think one thing that we get asked is like, is it just going to fall apart and there are going to be no more D3 guys? And that was definitely a concern after you're working on a book for a long time, that you write a book and then all the guys are out of the league. Fortunately, they've done us a solid, and like the top 5 records in the league were led by D3 executives last year. And but
like that's not hyperbole, by the way, right? Like Oklahoma City, Cleveland, Boston, Houston, the Knicks, top 5, all ran by D3 guys. 3 of the top 4 finishers for executive of the year, D3 guys. The year before, 5 of the top 7 finishers for executive of the year, D3 guys. So I think it's pretty top heavy on the front office side right now.
And none of those teams, as far as I can tell, are like on the back of like Victor Wembanyama. Like these are all like homegrown architect teams,
right? So Sam Presti and the Thunder, Kobe Altman and the Cavs, Stevens obviously in the Celtics, Rafael Stone in Houston, and then Leon and Tibbs, and no longer Tibbs, but with the Knicks.
Yeah, and it just feels like it's not going to go away because now it's so widespread in the league. Like there's just so many D3 guys that are in positions to hire, not just at the top level, but the guy that's hiring the video coordinators because he's the head video coordinator, he's a D3 guy, so he's going to look in his network, or he's going to take the email from someone that played in his conference. So it feels like it's too far gone to go away, but we'll see where it all leads.
All right, now this is the last question. Danny, would you trade your Syracuse diploma for an Amherst diploma, knowing what you know now after you worked on this book?
I thought you were going to ask me to write the foreword for your book.
He needed a longer intro spiel. I swear to God, if you listen back to the intro or the recording of that conversation with Van Gundy, the build up, it was a 2-minute preamble to the will you write the forward. I was so nervous. No, I would not. Like national TV is cool, man.
Tom, everything that we've described about D3 and influencing the NBA, it's like as we just basically could have done the same conversation about Syracuse and media.
Networking.
I'm staggered every time. Every time it's like, what Syracuse do? Shit, man. How big was this class?
Yeah. I mean, like, and it was again, people are listening for the basketball side of it, but it did like make you better. It refined you. You were around like-minded people who were, in my student radio room, it's Nick Wright, Andrew Filipponi, Mike Meltzer, Steve Gelbs, Zach Berman, Andy McCullough. Like these are who's who people in like sports writing, sports broadcasting, play-by-play, hosting, sports radio. And it's just, the class before it's, Jason Horowitz and Anish Shroff and Jason Benetti. And it's every year. And it was a thing. So yeah, I couldn't do the video coordinator stuff. That would be my problem.
The funny thing, I didn't know any of that until I got to ESPN.
Sure, of course.
I didn't know any of it. And then I realized, oh shit, all of these. I think Serena was the first person that like let me know, like, look, it's a bunch of us out here. And I'm like, really? I think it was like something like she's like, because her and Lefko are really good friends.
Yeah.
And so Serena Morales, I was like, how do you know Adam Lefko? I was like, we went to college together. Oh, what are the odds? I said it. Odds
are like 25%. Yeah, roughly 1 in 4. So no, for my skill set, I went to the right place. And
yeah, of course.
I mean, honestly, Ben, I'm a little disappointed that he's not like the assistant coach of the Bulls at this point. If I'm being totally candid with you.
Me too.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember going to visit Danny at school, and he's like, "This is my buddy Pony. He's got a baseball model where he like models out all the players." And I was like, "Oh, wow, you guys are all really just in it."
Yeah, we were doing the same thing. And then I went to see him see Amherst play Williams, and I was like, "Oh, this is a real game."
Yeah, little did you know you were watching the future head coach of the Utah Jazz sit on the bench.
Yeah, I know. I had no idea. I thought I was just doing my friend a solid as like an act of charity, driving there to see a game in like a high school gym. No. I didn't know it was going to be hundreds of hours of my life.
Yeah, come on.
Sorry. No, it's a great gym.
Yeah, it's fine.
Pipeline to the pros, how D3 small college nobodies rose to rule the NBA. It's a great book. And I would encourage people, even if you don't love the NBA, it's a great book about networking and the value of, leadership skills, and kind of in the Dave Epstein model of breadth over depth is just like having a liberal arts education in ways that can pay off down the road is just not necessarily the whole 10,000 hour rule. It's a lot of just like learning skills laterally will really help you. I actually thought you could name this book The Nobodies. That would have been fun. Because it came up a lot in this book, is just like how nobodies rose to power.
They don't like that word, huh?
No, they do not like the word, and we needed them to participate. Yeah. But maybe, you know what? When we get options, I'm still waiting for someone to option this like Moneyball. Maybe that's the name of the movie. Maybe it's
The
Nobodies. Yeah.
Can we get producer credit on Illuminati? Do you think we could do that if that happens?
If out of this interview, I get a call for a Hollywood option in the next, we'll say 60 days. Yeah, you guys get a producer credit.
60 days. Give him 90.
90 days. Done.
Thank you, Ben.
On a hard bargain.
Done.
That's Ben Kaplan and Danny Parkins, The Forward, not by Kobe Altman, but by Jeff Van Gundy.
Damn straight
after
it was.
An amazing pitch by Danny Parkins.
Thank you.
Great book, guys. Thanks for joining us on Illuminati.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys.
So Tyrese Maxey didn't know how to use a can opener. I actually didn't see the video, so maybe I shouldn't comment on this.
Tyrese Maxey's chef was away, and he needed to feed his dog. He needed to open a can of pumpkin to top off the kibble for the dog. This is the thing, I mean, don't make that face. Don't make that face. It's good for dogs to have a little pumpkin with their kibble, okay? I saw that. That's not what we're here to litigate, okay? That's not the target of this investigation. The target is that he didn't know how to use the can opener. And so what did he do? He went on Instagram Live. And so I put it to you, Tom Haberstroh, following in the footsteps of the Oklahoma City Thunder not knowing how to open a champagne bottle. What is more Gen Z about this story? Is it not knowing how to open a can with a can opener? Or is it trying to solve your problem by going on Instagram Live?
I feel like it's more Gen Z that he would go on social media and broadcast that he doesn't know how to use a can opener.
Yeah.
Usually just keep that stuff to yourself.
Or expect help.
Yeah.
Any sort of assistance.
He got it open. So that's the part that's kind of baffling to me.
Did they actually teach him how to do it?
After hacking at it and using it in every improper orientation, he did get the can open on the IG Live. However, I can understand not knowing how to use it. They're kind of a weird, archaic tool. There are some newer ones that work better.
They're not archaic.
They are.
That's a can opener.
Cans are archaic.
No, they're not. You need to contain things for long amounts of time. This is the best, most cost-effective way to do that. You can't argue against cans. Cans are cans.
I hate these cans.
Apparently you do. And by the way, I don't like, you ever see the pop seal can?
The pull tab?
Yeah, the tennis ball canister.
I always cut my finger on that. I hate doing those. I'd rather get a regular can opener. It's nice and safe. Grip it, clamp it, and now we're good.
Wait, why do you cut yourself on those but not the can opener one?
Because when you peel back the metal...
So much force.
Yeah, will nick me right there.
Got a wild can lid in motion.
Versus a regular can opener, you're not really touching it. You're just twisting. And then when it comes time to open the lid, I just grab a spoon and use that as a crank it open.
I've seen an Instagram video of people who are like, the real way to use a can opener, and they kind of flip it so that you're cutting the can rather than the top. Have you seen this?
No. And no. Also no to that.
I was like, why is that a hack?
Absolutely not.
What problem is that solving?
None.
Well, there is a smooth edge can opener. I don't know if you guys are up on this technology that I have that creates a lid that will not cut you no matter what. And that does what Tom is describing, where it goes and it cuts the side as opposed to the interior, and then you've got a smooth edge.
Just open it and use a spoon and lever it open. Leverage.
Open it and lever it open with a spoon.
Yeah.
And have a rusted, jagged can lid.
You're not saving the can. You just empty and you throw that shit out. What are you doing?
Well, if you're using it to feed your dog some pumpkin, you are reusing the can. You're not using all that pumpkin at once.
I have a theory to go along with Amin here. The soups or cans, the beans, whatever you want to call it, that have the tennis ball flip open.
Pull tab.
Doesn't taste as good. If you work at it with a can opener, the contents of that can actually taste better to me.
What if you're Maze and you have this alternate universe where there are no cans?
Mm-hmm.
What is everything stored in? A jar?
Mason jars.
A glass mason jar.
Hand-packed by local artisans. Farm to table.
And then sprinkle it all over your dog's food, apparently.